Ladies and gentlemen, today is Thursday the 5th of November and today Mojang released a new snapshot for Minecraft 1.9 called 15W45A. This is a bug fix and performance optimization snapshot, and the team at Mojang now say that they are in the final stretch of completing the work for Minecraft 1.9, so this one has a load of bug fixes, and that is likely the way it's going to be up until the Minecraft 1.9 release. The features are in, the bugs need to be stomped out before a release. My name is slicedlime, please join me on a quick overview of all the bugs fixed in today's snapshot. Let's start out with dispensers. Dispensers would not dispense the elytra, meaning they would be dropped as an item rather than equipped as an armor piece like other armor pieces do. That has now been fixed, so standing in front of a dispenser and dispensing elytra will now place them on your chest slot. Dispensers would also not dispense normal arrows by firing them, they would instead be dropped as an item, and that has now also been fixed. And speaking of arrows, there's a very long-standing bug that has been in the game for a long time, where an arrow would appear to land at one place but then instead would pop away and land in the correct location. That is now also fixed. The new mechanic to create potion-tipped arrows by shooting arrows into a cloud of a lingering potion had an exploit where you could obtain more than 6 arrows from a single potion. That has now been plugged up, so the maximum you can get is 6 tipped arrows. And speaking of lingering potions, they could also not be processed in a brewing stand. They would refuse to be put into a brewing stand using hoppers or droppers, and you couldn't extend them with further ingredients. That's now also fixed, so lingering potions can be modified in a brewing stand just like any other potions. One final bug fix about potions. When you threw a lingering potion, the entity in the world looked like a splash potion. They looked exactly the same. That has now been fixed, and the fix in itself is that the lingering tag is gone from the thrown potion entity, and instead there's now an item ID. So not only does that make lingering potions display correctly, you can also summon thrown potions via commands that look like any item in the game. So that opens up some interesting possibility for map makers and command blockers as a bonus side effect. Let's move on to mobs and AI. There has been tweaks to pathfinding and monster AI. Many of these fixes involve water, mobs being unable to pathfind across water as well as moving extremely slowly in water. That has been around for a long time, I think maybe even since the first release of Minecraft 1.8, and is now finally fixed. There's more fixes to pathfinding. Mobs used to not be able to pathfind from one slab to another slab one level above it. That has now been fixed, so mobs are now a slight bit smarter when moving on slabs. Mobs also did not understand the concept of lily pads. The lily pads have been changed, so they're now 1 pixel high, which means that mobs now have the ability to move across lily pads again. Or so say Mojang. I am not so convinced. Also, if you threw items on top of lily pads, they would bounce around, moving from pad to pad, and that's also been fixed. And finally, lily pads could be placed on ice and frosted ice, but would pop off when updated. One final mob and fighting related bug fix is that pre-generated end crystals would be invulnerable. That has been fixed for newly generated worlds, but it can still be a problem if you have an old world that you have opened in a snapshot and that you want to keep. You will have to fix them manually, and there's a command to do so. If you want to run it on a single player world, you will have to open it to LAN and switch on cheats. And if you're on a server, you will need operator permission to run this command. And what you run is /entitydata @ type equals EnderCrystal, and then curly brackets invulnerable : 0b. If you run that command while you are in the end, or while somebody is in the end on a server, it will fix all the ender crystals. Let's talk about other world entities. If you used a lead in an earlier snapshot to try to tether an animal to a fence post, it would break. That has been fixed, so leads can now be used again to tether animals to fence posts. Furnace minecarts had a problem with the fuel slot overflowing. What that means in practice is that if you put in 10 bits of coal in quick succession, you would glitch out the furnace minecart, tricking it to have infinite amounts of fuel. But furnace minecarts appear to be quite broken in other ways at the moment. And speaking about transportation, one of the types of boats could not be created. The dark oak boats could not be crafted in the game, and that has now been sorted. Let's turn our attention to maps. There were new crafting recipes for maps introduced early in the Minecraft 1.9 development cycle. They changed the starting size of the map and introduced a recipe to use shears to zoom in on a map. That never worked properly. The maps glitched out when you tried to do so, and that change has now been undone. Maps now start as zoomed in as they did in Minecraft 1.8, and the new crafting recipe is gone. In addition, all wooden doors looked exactly the same on a map. That has now been changed also, so that doors of different kinds of wood show in different colors on the map. There were also problems with animation of items, especially clocks. If you picked an item up, they stopped animating, which meant that if you held it in your cursor, the clock would not update. If you put it in an item frame, they wouldn't update either, at least on multiplayer server. One final fix to items is that if you held it in your hand, it had one orientation, but throwing it out caused it to be rendered as mirrored. That has now also been fixed. One final thing to mention for survival is that the achievement Overpowered, which was about crafting a notch apple, has been fixed. In a previous snapshot, the notch apple crafting recipe was removed from the game, which made it impossible to get the achievement. The achievement requirement has now been changed from crafting a notch apple to eating a notch apple, which is still possible, because you can still find them as loot. Let's move on and talk about a few fixes for creative mode and commands. The pick block function, the middle mouse button, when used on a glowing redstone ore would not give you anything. That has now been fixed to give you a redstone ore. Also, when typing in a command using coordinates, you can get the coordinate of the block you are aiming at by pressing tab. That has now been extended a bit, so if you are not aiming directly at a block, you will get a tilde marker for a relative coordinate. Let's move on into the user interface. There is a Realms notification toggle button that has been added to the options menu. This would appear to be an option to toggle whether you get notification of invites to other players' realms, but it's hard to know at the moment because Realms is currently on version 1.8. There's also some minor fixes to text and the fact that a closed window packet wasn't being sent by the beacon window, which didn't really affect vanilla Minecraft at all, but if you ran an anti-cheat plugin or something like that on a server, it could prevent you from doing anything after entering a beacon interface. Finally, there are some fixes to the new subtitle system. Subtitles would not appear if you turned your sound option off, and there was a subtitle for fire that said fire cackles, and that has now been properly changed to fire crackles. In addition to this, there were a number of fixes to minor rendering bugs as well as performance optimizations and a few crash fixes. That was a lot of bug fixes. If you're interested in the changes that came before these, then feel free to click on the link on screen right now to my Minecraft News playlist. It contains update videos for all previous snapshots for Minecraft 1.9, the combat update. If you want to try out this version, then head into your Minecraft launcher, create a new profile and select Enable Experimental Development Versions. Save it and start the game using that profile, and you will be playing the latest snapshot version, which is currently this one, 15W45A. Do remember that snapshots are experimental versions and meant for experienced users only. If you do try it, then expect that it could crash or even corrupt your world, so play it only on a backup of your world or on a separate test world. I hope you found this update useful, and if you did, please help me out and leave a like. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest news from Minecraft 1.9, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. My name is slicedlime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.